afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show for your Wednesday edition. Hump Day it is. It is the 30th of October today. One more day, Halloween tomorrow. I think I'll dress up in costume for you. I'll probably make it an easy costume. I was going to do a controversial one, but you know what? I just don't want to deal with controversy at this moment in time. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. Up in the air. We'll see. Anyway, hope you did well. I hope you weren't holding that DJT. We mentioned how volatile that crazy thing is going to be, and down 20-something% today. You had supercomputer down 32%. I mean, there were some wild movers today, and that was really kind of before the earnings announcements that really rocked the day. So that's going to be the kind of the talk track, at least for the beginning of the show today, is going to be more big earnings. Of course, we have Meta reporting earnings, and we also had Microsoft reporting earnings, which are the two big ones. And I guess I'll start there. In no particular order. I think that they're all going to be very significant and impactful. And I'm just going to look at the high-level numbers, then we'll pull up the charts and think, all right, well, what's the prognosis for them going forward? I have not listened to the earnings calls or read through these reports because I just haven't had time. The perils of working a lot. Setting up a new studio today, so I spent most of my day back in Irvine setting up a studio. I went to say hi to Larry, who's teaching the options class out there, but I'm going to get a nice little studio set up so I can do a lot more content for Trading Academy, and I'm excited about that. So let's start off with our earnings. Number one, Meta. Of course, we know Meta has been on an absolute tear, and I think one of the stronger looking from the Magnificent Seven. Here's their numbers. Earnings per share was $6.03 versus $5.25. Phenomenal. I mean, that's a great beat on it. And the revenue went from jumped to $40.59 billion, and they're expecting $40.29. Now, in the after-hour session, they did, I believe, I was trying to read through all of these reports here and make sure I got all my numbers straight. I believe it was subscriber issues with Meta. And even though they had great numbers, and you can see the chart looks fantastic, just incredible, down 1.86%. So it's where this kind of blue line is up here near the top in after-hours session. So market not liking the comments that were made by Meta about some details in the earnings statement, even though the numbers were great, looks fantastic. This again is why trading earnings is such a dangerous thing, because right there, looks like they had a great quarter. Well, obviously the markets think that maybe the next quarter may be a little bit more problematic. And if I bring this up to a 5-minute time frame, you can see a tremendous amount of volatility, real big whiplash type of moves happening this after-hour session. Of course, lots of volume, and we'll see where this one ends up tomorrow to start the day. But that is not, well, if we look at the spectrum of positive and negative for our markets for tomorrow, right away, this is a slight negative, right? It's not the number 1 or 2, but it's certainly up in the top 10 of weightings in that S&P, or in the NASDAQ. So, next, I'm sure they'll put a positive spin on it in the conference call. Yeah, sometimes they do. You know what, Liz? I always get the feeling like they'll report good earnings, and then they say something negative in those earnings announcements to, we missed on some new subscribers. Okay, well, they do that, in my opinion, to cause people to panic a little bit and think, oh, well, Meta's going to be slowing down in the next quarter, therefore their earnings aren't going to be as good. Then the next quarter rolls around and Meta jumps ahead of all those numbers because everyone already set their expectation lower based off these statements that were made at the previous earnings. So I think it's all part of the chess game. It's bluffing. It's manipulating the audience, in my opinion. So you're right. They'll massage it any way they want to achieve their objectives. Anyway, that was Meta. Second on our list, probably more important, is Microsoft. Microsoft came out at $3.30 per share. They were expected to make $3.10, so they had a big beat on earnings there. Their revenue jumped to $65.59 billion. Hell of a number. And then the expectation was 64.51. So they beat by over $1 billion on revenue, and they beat earnings per share by 20 cents. So, phenomenal. I mean, those are really good numbers as well. What did old Microsoft do? MSFT. And the after-hour session looks the exact inverse. It's like a Rorschach of Meta, right? It's almost the exact opposite of what's going on with Meta right now with Facebook. Facebook had that big surge up and now choppy and drifting lower. Meta had that big surge down, chop up, and now kind of just drifting sideways. So I would say that these two are probably going to cancel each other out as far as impact goes for tomorrow, at least for right now. If we open up right where we're at right now, I think that this is just going to be a wash, right? Microsoft is up 0.77% in the after-hours session, and it's more impactful, but Meta is less impactful, down 1.86%. So they'll probably end up being a wash here unless one of these things really starts to jump out of line and make these numbers look completely out of whack. What else did we have on the day? So I'll dive into two more. And one, I actually haven't had a chance to look at the earnings, so maybe we'll do that one together. I wanted to talk about Starbucks earlier this week because they had delayed their earning, or they usually offer insight into what their forecasts are going to be for the year and next year, like offering guidance going forward. And the CEO has said, we're not going to do that now, which a lot of people kind of freaked out last week when they heard that announcement. To me, I'm like, who cares? It's all just an opinion anyway based off of the data. So here is, I believe, when that announcement happened. You had this big down day right here. I think that's when they made that announcement that they were not going to be reporting or forecasting what their earnings are going to be for the next year, which, most companies do that, but there's no requirement that they give you a forecast and an estimate as what they're going to do for the next year. Therefore, the market's kind of panicked a little bit. And quite often, when you do that, people think that there's something awry, that there's something wrong, that there's some irregularity going on, and that causes them to panic. And I was really hoping last week that this would have sold off more because I did want to buy Starbucks. I was actually looking at going at this. This is Meta, excuse me. What a dummy. You had a similar picture. Where was the drop? I gotta go back and look at it. But there was a decent drop on Starbucks. Maybe it was this big gap down here last Wednesday. And it was last Wednesday. So it was this big gap down. And I kind of wanted it to sell off more. And my expectation was if this fear does precipitate and people continue to panic on Starbucks as, not giving guidance, then maybe we'll close this gap and I can pick it up at a much lower price. And that did not happen, unfortunately. Now today, you're down 0.72% in the after-hours session. And their earnings, what did they look like? Not great. Your earnings per share, they came out at 80 cents. Market was expecting $1.03. So this is actually a pretty big miss for Starbucks. Revenue, they came out at $9.07 billion. Market was expecting $9.36 billion. So I must admit, I'm really surprised that Starbucks is holding up as well as it is right now with that information in place. All right? You've got bad earnings per share. You've got bad revenue numbers that missed expectations by a good margin, and you're only down 0.72. I feel like something is not being disclosed, or I'm missing something. Maybe you guys can tell me what you think it might be. But Starbucks actually holding great, having a pretty significant miss on their earnings expectations. I mean, they missed it by 25%. That's pretty bad. All right, let me see what chatter I got here. I made nice premiums on Meta and Microsoft selling out of the money, selling puts out of the money today, Lori. You went into the earnings announcement with that. I mean, certainly the premium. If you're selling premium going into an earnings announcement, yeah, premium is going to be great. If you're selling options, selling puts or calls, premium's great, but you got to go really far out of the money because, you could get those 10, 15, 20% moves in 60 seconds, and that makes it scary. But yeah, I enjoy doing that as well. If it's a company I'm happy to buy, I'll definitely do it. Cool. Yeah, SMCI. Let's talk about this bad boy for a little bit. So here's SMCI, Super Microcomputer. Now, we had talked about this thing way back here when people were shaking their head going, what's going on? Why is this company ripping like this? Just kept on screaming to the upside back in earlier this year, and then started to drift lower. And now you've seen a pretty significant correction. That entire move for the year, we are officially negative for the year. Actually, I'm going to take that back. We've got another couple bucks to go before we're officially negative on the year. But Super Micro, back in March of this year, was trading at 122 bucks. And now, all of a sudden, it was trading at 33. In the after hours, we're down at 30, a little bit under 33. So, man, what a just shellacking here on Super Microcomputer. Now, I talked to a couple friends of mine who think that this company's fantastic, that they're going to do really, really well. And, hey, you know what? If that's how you feel about it, then maybe you look to buy at lower prices. Now, I didn't see what the news was. I thought their earnings was actually in a couple days. Oh yeah, their auditor resigned. That's right. So that's got to be an interesting one. If you're someone like, let's take Larry Jacobson for example. By the way, Larry will be on Monday. So we talked about it, and he's just going to be really busy this week. I thought of doing it on Friday, having our election show. But let's face it, most of you have probably already voted. The goal of the show is not to sway anyone's opinion in any way, shape, or form, so it doesn't really matter when we do it. But we're going to do it on Monday, and that will be an interesting show, by the way. We're going to do it this way. I'm going to take you guys out to when we start the show, Larry's probably going to be at the office. I'll be here at my home. And I have my arguments on what pros and cons for each candidate are as far as economic impact and where we might see those impacts. However, I'm not going to come into this with I'm going to represent Trump or Kamala. What we're going to do is we're going to go out to a website, and I'm going to, there's websites out there that do random coin flips. And I'm going to let Larry pick. Larry can pick heads or tails, and we'll do it live with you so you guys don't think we kind of pre-did this. I think it makes it a little bit more fun, more exciting when you kind of do it on the fly like that. So hopefully that'll come out good. But yes, we'll do that show on Monday and kind of see where we think the biggest impact for these candidates are going to be. It's tough because some issues are very ambiguous. You could argue it's got pros and cons to each one of these approaches to their presidency. So, I want Meta was wheeling it, and my stock was taken away 2 weeks ago. Lori, that's the one thing that sucks about the wheel strategy, right? You get in a run, and you're like, man, I'm just crushing it, doing so well, and it gets taken away from you. And deep down, you got to go to yourself, say, I'm really happy that I got all that premium. I wish I held on to it, but you didn't, so that's all right. Move on. If you end up being Trump, you need to broadcast impersonating Trump. You know what? I wouldn't mind doing that, but I think people take it the wrong way, that I'm like insulting or belittling him or mocking him, and I don't want to come across as a hater of either candidate. So I would do it, but maybe I don't know. I'd like to do it because these issues are going to be so important to everyone. And I know more than anyone how important these issues are. And I'm going to do everything to make sure when I'm elected that this happens. Yeah, I don't know. See, people think I'm mocking him, but that's how he talks when he gets ranting. I love it. Oliver, I haven't picked a website yet, but I'll take you out to one. It's just, you can go out to all kinds of different websites, and there's coin flip sites. We'll see. I think I can find it right now. Coin flip simulator. There you go. So I'll just ask him, I'll say, Larry, pick heads or tails? He'll say probably heads because everybody picks heads. Flip it. Larry would be, I guess, yeah, I will say, Larry, tails your Trump and heads your Kamala or whatever he'll pick. And then we'll just let him go. But there you go. That's how we're going to do it. So yeah, I guess, for those of you that are looking for deep discount buys, which is one of the ways I love using options, is on a moment like today, I think you'd all agree, there's pain. I mean, if you're an SMCI holder, you are in agony right now based off what happens. And they haven't even reported earnings, guys. Their earnings are supposed to happen on Monday the 4th. And my issue with SMCI, I kind of thought about this one and think, well, do I take a stab at it with, a few contracts, nothing big, maybe 5 or 10 contracts on this bad boy? Do you take that kind of chance? Because you know that the premiums are just really high right now because of the fear and panic in it. But they're coming out with earnings, and the auditor resigns just before earnings. Man, I don't know. That makes me feel like there might be and I think the reason you're seeing a 32% decline is, I think that people might be looking at it as, could there be accounting irregularities? Might they have been doing something on their books that has caused the scrutiny of regulators? And maybe that's what's caused their auditor to step down. I don't know. But not looking good. Personally, I'll just watch it. I don't feel strongly enough about this company like I did with with Boeing or with Nike or with Intel. SMCI, little sketchy at this point. At least as SMCI is toast. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Glenn, DJT, I was so close to selling a 20 put for a week and a half. I mean, really? Would you got anything for that one? Now, this thing was just, it's been just so crazy. Real crazy. You're down 22% today at DJT. You're down another 3.8% in after hours. I don't know how much premium you would have collected at the 20s, but given the volatility, you probably would have done okay. That's a long ways away from current prices. Let's see. KF, no. Look, here's the thing. Some of you understand my character. You know my perspective on this, that I really am ambivalent with regards to either of the politicians. I don't care. I want the election to be over and America to move forward. But there are people that will watch this, and when they hear me do a Trump impersonation like that, they think that I am a hater, and they think that I want him to lose the election, which I don't care. I'm not a supporter. I'm not a hater. I'm in neither camp. I think there's some things he's very good at. I think there's others he's very bad at, and I would say the same thing for Kamala Harris. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't do the impersonation. Sell on the rumors and panic on the news. Yeah. Les, it's buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So maybe in this case, you're just flipping it upside down. So if it's buy the rumor, sell the news, then it's going to be here, sell the rumor, buy the news. So if this is the rumor here is that or the on SMCI, if to me this is the news that the accountant or auditor resigned, yeah, this might be that moment. But I just don't want to take a stab at it yet. I'm not comfortable with it yet. This one's just too risky for me. There was plenty of other things here on our Magnificent Seven that may have created some opportunities. You had some nice moves down today from a percentage wise on Apple. Now, I wanted to bring up Apple because Apple, while it hasn't really broken here and starting to look bad, it did break that trend line. And I understand some of you can look at that and go, that trend line is not really well drawn. I would agree with you. I don't think it's well drawn. However, we are starting to see a little weakness here in Apple. It didn't make a high on this last rally up on October 28th. We've sold off for the last 2 days. If we get down below these most recent lows, which are the lows from October 23rd, that's $227.76. If we break that, then I have a much stronger feeling that Apple is going to move to the downside. Of course, I cannot trade this. So some of you can take that trade if you like it, but I'm not allowed to trade Apple. It's just in my trade plan, and I'll take that one to the grave with me. But Apple was a decent one. NVIDIA, of course, had a little bit of a hammer formation here. It went sideways for 2 days, broke some of the most recent lows, and then rallied back up. So this still looks strong in my opinion. I'm still bullish on NVIDIA, and I'll probably continue to stay bullish on it for quite some time. All right. What did I see here? Ernst & Young, we're our independent auditors for years. When they quit, you're done in a public company. Yeah. When your auditing firm walks away, that they usually know from a compliance perspective, like, we just don't want to deal with this client. It's just too much of a risk to us, or they're doing bad things that we can't put our signature on. Yeah. So that could be a much bigger drop here for SMCI. Now, when you look back into the 90s, I remember the Enrons, the WorldComs, these crazy implosions of companies that were just cooked. Everything was fabricated and ended up being total frauds. Is SMCI one of those? I don't know. I haven't dug deep enough into it, but the fact that their auditor walked away is pretty bad. Lori says, Ernst Young managed our Methodist Church pension fund. I think we managed quite a few. On that note, thanks for that curveball right there, Lori. You actually segued into something. I was reading some articles today about pension funds across the United States for different states. Florida, in particular, is looking to acquire Bitcoin for their pension fund. Now, remember I talked in yesterday's show on the Bitcoin breakout and kind of, here we go. We did expect there to be a sell-off. I did expect there to be a pullback in Bitcoin just because we came into all-time highs. But again, one of those factors I keep pointing to over and over again is new entities who are not in this space at all buying Bitcoin, because now the barrier to entry and the regulatory environment is a little bit clearer, and they're jumping on that wagon. The other part here is Larry Fink of BlackRock is going out to these pension funds and giving them presentations and speeches talking about IBIT, which is now the most successful ETF in the history of financial markets. Just put that in perspective. This thing is not that old, right? IBIT is the most successful ETF in history, more successful than the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Russell, the Dow, XLE, XLF, those staples that we use all the time, particularly for me with like my wheel strategy, 1%. It's crazy to think something so new is the most successful, popular ETF of all time. There are, I believe the number I saw was 400,000 Bitcoin now held by BlackRock. 400,000. I mean, that is a monumental number. And I think that the more that you get a pension fund from Florida, maybe California, maybe other states start to do the same thing, they got to buy it from somewhere. And people like me, I'm not selling. Yeah, Beto is the futures version, right? Beto is the futures version. When you look at something like IBIT, I wonder if I can do, let me see here real quick. If you go to stockcharts.com, they do a really good performance chart. They call it a perf chart. Stockcharts.com. Now let me see if I can, so if you click up here, you can go performance chart. Let me first do if I can do a snapshot of Bitcoin. See what it gives me. I need their ticker symbol. We couldn't find Bitcoin. How about BTC? This is going to be the grayscale. Yeah, grayscale Bitcoin mini. So this probably is not going to work, but if you line these up and do something like IBIT, you do something like Beto, you do BTC, right? These are all ETFs. Some are future, some are spot. But if you click on a performance chart, oh, that's weird. It was there a moment ago. Hold on a second. Let me start all over. There it's performance chart. Let's see, BTC, BITO, and let's just do IBIT. So these should all, yeah, right, Big Eb? $28 billion for BlackRock. Wow. There we go. So you notice that most of these do track very, very closely. I think the reason that you're seeing the pro shares and the grayscale lag is because of fees. So IBIT's got a cheaper fee structure than these other futures products and the grayscale one. So I think that's why you're seeing the separation there. But they should track fairly closely. They won't be 100% because it's obviously not the spot. It's a representation of it. And if you break down some of these ETFs, you think it's all Bitcoin. It's not. So a lot of them have treasuries in there and other assets to smooth out the volatility of it, which does further distort its comparison to the to Bitcoin's true price. Yep. I prefer to own Bitcoin direct. That way I'm not lining Larry Fink's pocket any more than necessary. You're actually doing something better, Liz. And this is one that I've mentioned before, but everyone's got to understand this. If, let's just say, Big Eb buys IBIT, IBIT. We have to trust that BlackRock is actually buying Bitcoin to represent it. It's supposed to be, if you buy $60,000 or $70,000 worth of Bitcoin IBIT, then they have to go buy $70,000 worth of Bitcoin and hold that for you. Now, let's say that that Liz goes out there and she buys Beto, B-I-T-O. She buys $70,000 worth of Beto. You've done nothing to impact the price of Bitcoin. You're not influencing at all. Now, let's say that the third is me, and I go and I buy a physical Bitcoin. I go to Coinbase, I buy a whole Bitcoin for 70 grand. As Big Eb just puts there, you're taking it out of circulation. This is very different than stocks, guys. It's way different. It's completely new, really. If I buy that, and I have several Bitcoin, those are no longer part of the circuit. They're part of circulating supply, but they're not part of the liquid supply that people can buy. Right? Remember, it's like that float versus outstanding shares. If I keep my Bitcoin on Coinbase, it's still part of circulation. They can trade, buy, sell, do whatever they want with that. But when I take my Bitcoin and I put it on this ledger right here, this storage device, Coinbase can't touch it, BlackRock can't touch it, U.S. government can't touch it, so no one can buy my Bitcoin from me unless I choose to sell it. So the more people that buy physical, actual Bitcoin and take it off of the exchange, the more you are removing supply of Bitcoin from the world. And the more people that remove supply, so let's imagine supply is diminishing ever so slightly because Big Eb's taken his off the exchange, Liz has taken hers off the exchange. No, I don't have more than 10. Not yet. That was the goal of mine, and I don't know if I'm going to get there. Now it's pricey. But if you're taking your Bitcoin off those exchanges, supply is slowly going down. Now, if Florida comes out and says, hey, our pension fund's going to be buying some Bitcoin, and here comes Wyoming and Washington saying ours as well. And then you got Google and Amazon saying, we're going to allocate just $1 or $2 billion for our cash to buy some Bitcoin. And they have to now go to the open market and buy it when there's fewer Bitcoin. That drives the price up more and more and more. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. If you're really into this, buy it, take it off the exchange, hold it on cold storage, put it in a paper wallet if you want, but find some way to get it out of those exchanges, and you will further help the price of Bitcoin moon. I finally broke down and opened a Coinbase account. Thanks. I didn't think I would ever buy Bitcoin. Glenn, if you do buy Bitcoin, for all of you, understand that there's two different types of platforms. There is Coinbase Normal and Coinbase Advanced. Always use the advanced platform. You will pay a lot less money in commissions. It's really, really important. Otherwise, if you go to Coinbase and use the main page you come to, you're going to pay roughly 5 to 6% in transaction fees. If you use their advanced platform, you're going to pay about 1.2% in transaction fees. If you use Kraken, you're going to pay about 2% in transaction fees on the basic platform and 0.4% on their advanced platform. So always use the advanced platform. You got to do it. Is it complicated to put your Bitcoin in a hard wallet? Nope. Basically what happens, I would show you, but this is too public. I don't like to share my account this publicly. But you would basically copy the address from your ledger. So I can open up a screen, just say, give me my address, and I paste that in the send address over at Coinbase. So let's just go, I'll show you right now. This part I can show you. I just don't want to show you my ledger. I'll save that for my students. If as you notice here, I've got a portfolio. I keep a couple $1,000 worth, well, $1,700 just for my class to show money being sent. But here I've got, $500 for the Bitcoin. If I want to send that, so let's say you bought $500 for the Bitcoin, you just click this button right here that says withdraw. And now I would type in what address. And so send via Bitcoin. And then you can see I actually have some addresses here already that I've sent to in the past. So I would click on this address right here. And I would type in the amount of Bitcoin. Let's say, whatever, $400 worth. I don't know why it's freezing, but once you do that, then you would be sending your crypto to that exchange. So there you go. So the max, I could send 507. There we go. Done. Now, you'll notice when you go to preview the send, I think I already put this address in here. Okay. Preview the send, and then it tells you all the fees. It's only going to cost me 67 cents to send $507 worth. So not too bad. All right. There you go. So it's actually really easy. And for anybody, particularly those of you who are, Coinbase Advanced is not free. It's not free. There's no cost to use the platform, but there is a transaction cost. It's 1.2% transaction cost for Coinbase Pro. Kraken is 0.4% on their advanced platform. So yeah, I would definitely say if you know you're going to buy a big amount of Bitcoin or crypto, I would say go use Kraken. Use Kraken Pro, and then once you buy what you like, move it off to cold storage. Yep. And it's Kraken. So if I saw Gnome spelled with a C, just to make sure everybody knows it's spelled Kraken. What really you mean for active trading? I only pay a fee if I trade on Coinbase Advanced. What do we see? Coinbase is now doing a monthly fee-based thing. Yeah, so they created something. It's called I think it's called Coinbase One. I was trying to find it the other day. It's not readily available now. There used to be all these pop-ups. It was called Coinbase One, and they charge you a monthly fee for it, and then there's no transaction costs with that. So you could make all the transactions you want, and you're just paying a flat monthly fee. So they tried doing that, but I don't know how well that succeeded or not. But I got an email if he doesn't go about 1 month free to try. Yeah, so it's $29 a month. There you go. Yeah, I've seen it a few times. I haven't used it. I just decided I don't do enough active trading on these platforms. Now, if you're someone who wants to trade a lot of crypto, you don't use Coinbase. Do not use Coinbase if you want to be extremely active. I would say Kraken is probably, in the US, is probably the best one. Now, you could use Binance.us, but Binance.us doesn't allow you to do anything in US dollars. There is no actual fiat on that exchange anymore, so you can't send dollars there or cash out. It's just an active trading thing, so it's not that good either. All right, we moved over to a crypto, and I think there was actually a crypto question. So now they're on that note, and I hate making these show all crypto. I know some of you just can't stand it, but here's a question from Matthew that came in, and since you sent it, Matthew, I will read it. He says, with crypto rising rapidly and poised to continue, what would you do to try to accumulate more? I hold some crypto, but I'm looking for ways to accumulate more. I try to buy the dips in a hybrid dollar cost averaging supply and demand strategy, but are there other ways to try and accumulate more on a budget? You have said, and I've heard it echoed by others, that crypto will have a big drop at the end of next year. How big of a drop is that forecasted to be? Okay, great questions. Great questions. So number one is, if you're doing a market timing strategy and just saying, look, when Bitcoin has big dips, I'm buying it, I have to say it's probably the best way to do it. You can use options now on IBIT, so you could sell puts and generate premium that way, so you're earning money, and just sell at strike prices where you'd like to buy it. And that's another way you could do it, but you're not actually buying physical Bitcoin. So I think the easiest way is just when you see drops, buy Bitcoin, dollar cost average. I think that this is, I've told several of my friends, and the funny part is none of them have listened to me. I said, look, just take $100 a month or a week, whatever you can afford, and without breaking the bank and taking any money out of your, off your table. Let's say it's $100 a month. Just automatically go and buy $100 a month of Bitcoin. Forget the price. It's the same thing as a 401k, right? No one here is timing their 401k. No one goes to their boss and says, hey, hold on, don't buy for 2 more weeks. Wait, I know it's the 1st. I want you to wait till the 18th to buy. Yeah, hold on. No one does that. Everybody gets their check. Money goes out the 1st and 15th, depending on how you get paid, and it automatically buys at that day, and you could care less what the price is, right? So to me, all right, Chris, love it, Chris. I'm hoping I get a big bear hug when it all comes to fruition from you. When the 401k analogy there, you just buy. You just buy consistently over time. And don't buy too much that it hurts you financially, but to me, that's the best way to do it. Just consistently buy over time. I don't have a 401k or a job. Well, Laura, then you have to do it slightly different, right? You'd have to just kind of say mentally in your head, how much can I afford a month? Without breaking the bank, without inconveniencing you at all. If it's $50 a month, then do that. If it's $1,000 a month, well, that's up to you. Maybe you split it around. But to me, it's that consistent part. I think that I was extremely lucky when I was buying my $1,500 a week back in 2017. Remember, it's $500 Bitcoin, $500 Litecoin, $500 worth of Ethereum for quite some time. It was a pretty heavy expenditure, but I had the capital, and I really felt strongly about crypto, and that was very rewarding. But I think, do I know who Eric Prince is? Nope. Don't know Eric Prince. I'll be honest, guys, I don't really go out in social media and follow people and look at other people's comments. I just do my thing. I don't like to be swayed by other people. Don, it's funny because Don, I forget how I got in touch with Don. I think I called him to talk about his review of Trading Academy, which was not very nice. And he's, but I watch the show every now and again. He watches mine, but for the most part, man. Love Eric Prince, huh? All right. Thinkers from Schwab needs to get on the ball and offer Bitcoin. Yeah, at some point they will. Okunola says, what about Gemini? So, okay, let's run through like the big 4. I know Bitstamp is there as a 5th one, but let's do big 4. Coinbase is your biggest juggernaut of crypto firm. They've got the most money. They're the only publicly traded one. Therefore, in my mind, they're the safest. I know some of you might disagree, but I'd say they're the safest because they have all this oversight of their numbers. However, they also are one of the more expensive. They've got great selection, but their fees are still high. Number 2 would be Kraken. Kraken has pretty good selection, not publicly traded. They've got a lot of customers, so the liquidity is better than Gemini. If you look at Gemini doesn't have a lot of liquidity. There's really not a lot of people using Gemini. Now, I know that the Winklevoss twins have tried to do more institutional involvement, which is fine. That might bring in some liquidity. But as far as retail goes, I don't know anybody that I talk to that's using Gemini to trade with. And that's not a knock on Gemini. That's just a fact that most people are either going with Coinbase, Kraken, or Binance. And now that Binance doesn't allow you to use US dollars, that rules them out for me. So I'm really left with two exchanges, and it's Kraken and Coinbase, because Gemini doesn't have the liquidity, although Gemini's transaction fees are very cheap. So if you're going to buy something that's very liquid, Bitcoin, Ethereum, fine. But if you're buying some obscure coin, you got to be careful here. I'll give you an example. You guys give me a name. Whoever gives me the first name of a crypto other than Bitcoin or Ethereum, I'll look it up for you and show you the liquidity. Let's see. Coin. The other big brokers don't offer crypto. Nope. Most do not offer spot crypto. They offer some derivative of it. All right. So Lisa said Solana. Great. So here's how you would do this. You'd go over here to something like CoinMarketCap and you type in SOL, S-O-L, which is their ticker symbol. You see it's the number 5. You would click on this, and up at the top, you see it says markets. Right here, markets. And this will tell you where it's traded at. You can see Binance is the number 1. Big volume in the last 24 hours. You're looking at almost $10 million traded in the last 24 hours on, let me make sure that's right. Nope. Let me take that back. I need to get a bigger screen here. Volume is actually more than that. It's $515 million in the last 24 hours against Tether. Now, down here, Coinbase has done 117. So this is like, 1/4, 1/5 of what Binance is doing. And then you go down here to Kraken. Kraken's only done 33 million. So it's not that they're not doing any business. They're just not doing a lot. Now, where's Gemini? I don't see Gemini there. There's Gemini. Gemini, 2 million. 2 million total volume in the last 24 hours. That's weak. Weak sauce, right? Not a lot going on there. So, if you wanted to be active, you got to be careful on something like Gemini. If you're going to be an active trader in Solana, understand there's not a lot of volume here. There's not a lot of people using it. So where's Robinhood on that list? I don't think Robinhood is going to be on this list because I think they use a third party. Robinhood, I don't believe Robinhood is their own crypto exchange. I believe Robinhood connects through someone else, and maybe you can find that out. Let's see. One second. Who does Robinhood use to trade crypto with? You're investing at Robinhood, LLC, allows you to... but I'm sure there's a third party here. Yeah, they don't charge you any commissions. I gotta see who's on the back end because I don't think that they have their own exchange that they're doing. So it's really whoever they would be connected to, and I don't know who that is. Yeah, not sure. But with a little bit of digging, not live on air, I can find that one out for you. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they use a different company. It's just like they're trading, right? They're usually selling order flow to somebody else. They're not really a broker. They're kind of just selling that order flow. They're classified as a broker, but they sell it out. Where and how does BlackRock trade Bitcoin? So there's several different ways. They can go to over-the-counter markets. They probably have relationships with these exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance. It would not surprise me if you dug deep into the weeds to see companies like BlackRock having made investments in companies like Kraken, Binance, Gemini, Coinbase, right, and have money in there so they have a vested interest in being first in line when it comes to buying crypto. Also, you could look at things like the different miners, so Riot Blockchain and Marathon, and I do believe that BlackRock actually has a stake in both of those, Marathon and Riot, if I'm not mistaken. And again, why would they do that? Because now you have a direct link to the people who are actually mining Bitcoin, pulling it out of the code, right? Getting that Bitcoin, and maybe you can borrow that when you need it. Maybe you can acquire that because you are one of the bigger shareholders of the company and have money in it. So that's part of the way they would get it. Lisa says no worries, don't really care about them. Webull has a third party. I think a lot of people do. Even TradeStation had a third party, and that's what got them in trouble, I believe. They were using someone else. So, unless it's priding themselves as being a crypto exchange, which would be Kraken, Binance, Gemini, Coinbase, Bitstamp, those types of ones, just check and see who's on the back end. If you email me, I'll look it up because I always forget at the end of these shows to look this stuff up. But if there's, companies you want to look at, I'll dig into it. Just email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com and I'll check that one out for you. All right, so the last part was this question that came in from Matthew. The last sentence there says, you have said, and I've heard it echoed by others, that crypto will have a big drop at the end of next year. How big of a drop is that forecasted to be? Well, again, my hypothesis is that we have this 4-year model for crypto, that Bitcoin in particular runs in a 4-year pattern. And the first year of that pattern is a precipitous decline of roughly 70 to 85%, which is jaw-dropping. I think everyone here would be like, I don't want to be a part of that. Yeah, been a part of it. I've ridden that one down before, twice. And if we look at, the previous one, right? So let's go, I'm going to scroll back here. And if you go to right here, and this was November 7th, or actually November 8th of 2021, that was its peak. That was the first year of that 4-year down cycle. It lasted literally 366 days. Not 365, 366, and the market dropped 76.96%. Right? That was the last 4-year cycle end. Now, you could look at this one here, which began in 2017. When did it start? December 17th, right? So slightly off. How long did it last? You can see here it lasted 363 days. I don't know why, guys. It just floors me. I know I seem crazy when I talk about this, but I'm just shocked at how this happens every time. And I don't know why. I don't care why. I just want to be capitalizing on it. So that one lasted a year, and that was an 83% drop. And what typically happens is it'll go sideways to up for a little bit, then the halving happens, and then after the halving, it goes down to sideways for 6 months, which is where we find ourselves today. All right, went down to there's the halving, went down to sideways, and then once it breaks out, then it goes up several thousand%. Now, the target I've looked at, which is I'm counting on the rate not being as significant, meaning I see it diminishing. To me, puts that price of Bitcoin right around 250,000. This actually shows 250,000 is where I think it'll be by the end in November of 2025. Now, how big of a sell-off will that be? Well, if we go off historical norms and I go and do a 70% sell-off, or 75% sell-off puts it back at 60,000. Which, could it get there? Sure. I'm pretty positive that when we get to 2025, most likely in September, I'm going on an incredibly defensive approach. I'll be moving my crypto off of my cold storage, putting it on an exchange, and getting ready with stop losses to get out of my positions if the market tanks. Because it just happened every time in the fourth year, in the fifth year that this thing sells off. So I am of the expectation that it'll be between a 70 and 80% sell-off in 2025, from 2025 to 2026. Yep, history tends to repeat itself. So Lori, 2 years from now would be when I'm looking to buy back in. I'm looking to sell out of it next year, and I'm going to have a hard time really selling all my Bitcoin. We'll see what happens next year, but right now that's the plan. The plan is dump all my crypto next year and let this cycle implode. Let it drop 70%. If it drops 50%, I'll buy back in. I'll buy back in 50% lower. That means I can buy twice as much, and I maybe will get my 10 plus Bitcoin. The trick is a lot of people are thinking the same, right, Big Ev, and that's the thing. Kind of like we talked about September. Everyone says, oh, September's the worst performing month. It's the worst performing month. Oh, you started to hear that so much this year that at the beginning of September, I was like, I think we're going to go up. Just because everyone's saying it's going one way, it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. When everyone thinks it goes one way, it goes the opposite. So now everyone's thinking there's this crash coming in 2017 and next year. Man, it's a tough one. I hope it does. I really do. I hope it crashes 80% and I can buy back in with all the full amount that I sold at those highs. Let's see. Why, Robert? That's a question I can't answer you. I've been perplexed on that one ever since I've kind of identified this 4-year cycle and looked at it. I don't get it. I don't get why it can drop 70 to 80%. Just keep on drifting lower. It makes no sense to me. I think this time is going to be slightly different. And the reason I think it's going to be different is because of adoption. We've reached that point now of institutional adoption. We have not had that yet. Now we've got it, so I think it'll be different. But that's also what's going to cause this thing to go up to 250 to a million. I think that's what's going to cause Bitcoin to really go ballistic. Plus all the political uncertainty, plus all the inflation, plus all the printing of money and potential defaults of government. This is all drawing people to Bitcoin. So I think those cycles may change at some point. But for right now, I'm still planning on a big crash next year. So there you go, Matthew. That's hope I answer your questions here. Let me go over. I thought I had different sites all set up here, but I'm going to bring this up so I can wrap up the show. I was planning on being done early, and lo and behold, look what happens. We never finish early on this show. Okay, so tomorrow obviously is Halloween, but today, what did we have? We had some good stuff. Some of this was really good. You look at the ADP non-farm employment change, guys. Great numbers. They were expecting a contraction in jobs. Was actually a huge expansion, way outside of expectations. Now, here's the chart of it, but if we look a little closer in, this is good news. I mean, it's the highest level we've been in over a year. That's actually extremely positive on this ADP non-farm employment change. Now, the big news is going to come out on Friday with the unemployment rate. Other pieces we had here, this was not good. The advanced GDP, they're expecting it to stay at 3%. We came out at 2.8. That's not good, right? I think historical average for the U.S. is like 3.3 or 3.4%. So we're below average. We wanted to see this kind of keep creeping up, but we haven't. What else did you have? Pending home sales. This was a shocker. Look at this spike. I mean, big jump up in pending home sales, which is good. And maybe that's people taking advantage of those rates, knowing that rates are going to get higher. Buy now before those rates get really, really high. Margaret says, inflationary jobs report. Yeah. I would say so. I mean, when you have job creation, that means the economy is performing well. That's what the governments want to see. But if we get a lot more job creation, that's more money coming into the economy, that's more spending, that leads to inflationary pressure. But not instantly. It'll be something that takes some time to filter through. But yep, absolutely. Imagine the taxes on that Bitcoin sale. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Lisa. If you've got it on cold storage, who's going to track your sale? If you send it to Coinbase and you cashed out, then the IRS is going to go, hey, wait a minute, where'd this come from? You're going to have to come up with some explanation. But what if I go to a different country, right? With Bitcoin that I paid $3,000 for that's now worth $250,000. Do I have to pay capital gains on $247,000 if I go to Thailand and cash out there? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I know. Taxes. Blah. All right, so that was the stuff for today I thought was pretty big and important. Some good pieces there. Of course, lots of earnings. Tomorrow, you still have some pretty big announcements as well. It's all about inflation, and it's looking like inflation is ticking back up according to the core PCE price index. 0.1%, they're expecting to jump to 0.3%. That would be not good for our markets to see it kind of spike up like that. You also have your unemployment claims, employment cost index, and challenger job cuts tomorrow. Personal income, personal spending, natural gas storage. It is a busy day. But it's not just the economic announcements. There's going to be some earnings announcements as well, and there are some monsters tomorrow. We just have a plethora of big names reporting earnings. So we talked about the Microsoft and the Meta. Tomorrow, you've got Apple and Amazon. So today was the M stocks. Tomorrow is the AA. You also got Intel, MasterCard, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Altria, Merck. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Big day. And you also get some petrol companies in. You got ConocoPhillips. You also have U.S. Steel, International Paper. So some staples there. That will be your day for tomorrow. So that's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. I hope we see a little bit of a stall here in Bitcoin's price. I know I didn't really go into the charts today. I will zoom in here real quick just to see this one because it's the only one that really is showing me anything I'm excited about at the moment, and that is this Bitcoin price chart. We had that little bit of a pullback. We'll see. Do we stop here and start to move back up? I think so. On the broader picture, I'll run through these real quick. All right, Bitcoin down 1.1% today. The NASDAQ right now down 0.78%, but still the chart looks great. Same thing for the S&P. Really, it's about getting below that 5806 mark, which we talked about a couple days ago. So all in all, we're good there. Your dollar index rolling over at an overhead supply level. It's funny how supply and demand works. Right? Funny how supply and demand works. Did you watch Coldplay? I did not watch Coldplay. Did I? No. You mean where's Coldplay? Where? Katut, I have listened to Coldplay, but not seen them. I heard a rumor they were going to play at the Sphere, but I didn't follow through on that one. Your Russell, still looking great. Higher highs, higher lows. The 10-year, yields keep rocking. Move to the upside. Gold, continuing. All-time highs yet again. Again, central banks around the world. Margaret, you sent me some stuff. Yeah, central banks are definitely acquiring and piling up on gold. I mean, it's what's real. And then crude oil, nice little bounce off those lows, up 2.08% today. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking. You weren't talking to me. You were talking to Lori. Now that's a fan. If you went all the way to Australia to see Coldplay, I have flown around the world to go see Fish, but yeah, I tried to do a trip based on that one. Joe says, can you sell all your crypto that you have on your ledger, or just transfer and swap them over to USDC? So I could sell directly on my ledger, but what happens is Ledger is not an exchange or a broker. So what they do is they connect to a third-party wallet, third-party company who will do that transaction for you, and generally the fees are significantly higher. It's not like 1% more. It's like 3-4% more. So it could be a significant amount of extra expense. And when we get to that point, Joe, you'll be in the class. Just you'll see. I'm transparent. I'll disclose exactly what I'm doing. In the crypto class, you guys, I share my ledger and all that I'm doing with it. So, yeah, we'll let you know when that happens. Oh, I love it. Love the Pacific Rim companies. I still got to go down and visit Ketut in Singapore. Although I think you live in New York now, but I got to get out to Singapore again. Love it down there. Southeast Asia, man, my favorite. Oh, Lori says, I haven't seen a concert since high school. Lori, buy a ticket to Las Vegas. Go see any show at the Sphere. If you like the Eagles, go see the Eagles right now. They've got a residency there. It's one of those shows, and the venue will just absolutely blow your mind. You're going to be just blown away by it. Make a nice weekend out of it. Go to Vegas and enjoy it. It's a good one. Okay, that's going to do it, everybody, before I get to an hour show. Man, today I kept telling myself, 30-minute show, Merlin. Stick to 30 minutes. Here we are at 54. All right, that'll do it for me, everybody. I will see you tomorrow in costume. I will probably do my PG one, not my rated R costume, but yeah, there you go. So if you guys have anything you want me to discuss on tomorrow's show, let me know. Thank you, Matthew, for the questions. Matthew, and yeah, that was just Matthew sending the question on crypto. So let me know if you guys have anything you want me to cover for tomorrow. If not, I'm just going to go off current news, and if I have time to make some trades, I'll tell you about those. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.